Hey everybody. So again, sorry I couldn't be here. I have to administer the ACT test today. Mr. Wilbur is going to be working with you guys today and just walking you guys through what the assignment's going to be. Ask him if you have any questions. I'm sure he is going to be able to help you guys out a lot. But just before we get to that, I just want to walk you guys through what our next unit is going to be and what your assignment is going to be as well today. So we've been talking about the end of the Middle Ages, the fall of papal power, the rise of intellectualism in some ways. And so what we're going to talk about for the next unit is called the revolutions, and it's going to involve three things: the Renaissance, the Protestant Revolution, and the Scientific Revolution. We're going to see Europe start to come out of the Middle Ages and much, much more into a modern day age. So those are the three things we're going to be looking at today, starting with the next week or so, looking at the Renaissance. And today we're going to begin by defining the Renaissance, talking about what the humanities are and the origins of the Renaissance, and looking at one of our aspects of the Renaissance, political thought, and Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince. So first and foremost, what is the Renaissance? By the way, green is our color to get for this unit. The Renaissance is a rebirth of culture, language, art, and science spanning from 13th to 17th century Europe, and it's ridiculously important for almost all of society. The Renaissance itself isn't quite an event that was acknowledged at the time. Like nobody would have said, "Oh, we're starting, we're in the Renaissance right now." But it's something that we can look back on as a historical moment in which learning and culture are emphasized throughout Europe. And to be honest with you, it's not like it's something that was happening in a vacuum. A lot of ideas were coming in from the Middle East. We talked the other day about how the Crusaders, when they fought in the Middle East, they came back and they brought Greek and Roman literature back with them because the Islamic empires had preserved Greek and Roman literature. And Europeans were like, wow, this is really amazing. This is really smart. We should learn this. And that emphasis on Greek and Roman culture is going to be incredibly important for the Renaissance because they saw the Greeks and Romans as this intellectual idea that they wanted to strive for. And the Renaissance is going to change almost all of European society forever, and by proxy, affect our lives today still. Art, political thought, and literature where the most progress were made. So we're going to take a look at political thought today and tomorrow, literature in a couple days, and we're going to finish up with art before moving on to the next part of revolutions. Let's start today by talking about humanism. Humanism is an intellectual movement based on the humanities. Now, humanism and humanities, a lot of people make it sound like they care about people. The humanities are not particularly interested in how people behave. They're interested in art, language, and poetry. These subjects are known as the humanities. Things like history. They're basically like, I guess, in a college setting, you wouldn't exactly get a job out of these things. They're the types of things that you go and you learn in a job, and your parents would go, "Well, why are you doing that?" Those are the humanities. The humanities is learning for learning's sake. It says that the intellectual is the model human being, that we should expand our minds by becoming better intellectuals and by learning more. So, like I said before, when Greek and Roman thought comes back, people begin to read this more and more, and interest in the humanities skyrockets. There's more literature being written, history is beginning to be studied and written down again, and we're going to take a look at poetry, art, all these things start to show up. So the Renaissance is firstly and foremost based around this idea of the humanities, the arts, intellectualism, and thinking. And like I said, Greek and Roman ideals are going to be a huge part of the Renaissance. In fact, when we look at Renaissance architecture, in some ways it's almost indistinguishable from Roman and Greek architecture. You can almost not tell the difference, except for the fact that obviously the Greek and Roman architecture is pretty much in ruins at this point, whereas some of the art of the Renaissance and architecture and buildings of the Renaissance are still in great order today. So let's talk about political thought. I need you guys to get this name right here, Niccolo Machiavelli. He's the founder of modern political thought. Here's a picture of Machiavelli on the right. Now, Machiavelli is an Italian political scientist, and he worked for a family called the Medicis. And basically, the Medicis were like the mafia in a lot of ways. They were the richest dudes in town, so they ran the show, and they weren't afraid to use violence to back up their own power. And so the Medicis are an incredibly powerful, influential family, and you kind of had to stand their good side. So Machiavelli had been on and off with the Medicis for a period of time, and what ends up happening is he writes a book called The Prince for the Medici family. It's a guidebook on power, how to get it, how to keep it, how to best use it. And what's interesting about Machiavelli is before Machiavelli, when I say he's the founder of modern political thought, he does things differently than everyone before him had done. Political theory had always been interested in basically what was the right thing to do, what was the moral thing to do, how would God want us to rule our country. And that had gone on in Europe since about, I don't know, 500 AD till about 1300 AD, was this idea is how does God want us to rule? What does the Pope want us to do? How can we best create God's kingdom on earth? Was the question that political scientists asked themselves. And Machiavelli doesn't do that. Machiavelli doesn't care about doing the right thing. He doesn't care about doing the moral thing. He doesn't care about being the good guy. He cares about winning. and he cares about power, gaining it, acquiring it, and using it. So Machiavelli, he uses a phrase, it's a very famous phrase, it's better to be feared than to be loved. Machiavelli believed, at least he wrote in The Prince, that if people feared you, they were much more compliant than to love you, because love is fickle, love is fleeting, and as soon as you stop showing them that love, they'll abandon you. But fear, according to Machiavelli, fear never goes away. You can control people with fear. And so The Prince is this huge guidebook upon using fear, never doing the right thing, always doing the wrong thing. In fact, one of the more famous segments of The Prince talks about how Italian person had, I forget the particular name of this individual. There were two noble families and they were fighting, and one of them invited another noble family over for dinner, and basically about halfway through the dinner just slaughtered everybody. And that sounds like a horrifying, terrible thing. But Machiavelli said, no, this is awesome politics because it ignored doing the right thing and it did what was effective. It did what kept him power. And so this spawns the phrase Machiavellian. And so what Machiavellian means is that you're doing something that's motivated by self-interest. You're ignoring doing the right thing or the moral thing in favor of doing what's best for you. And so what we're going to be doing for our assignment, you'll notice there's these huge big sheets of paper up front, and you guys are going to be creating a cartoon. You guys will take that piece of paper and segment it 4 ways like a comic. It's with panel 1 in the top left, panel 2 in the top right, panel 3 in the bottom left, and panel 4 in the bottom right. And what I want you guys to do for me is I want you guys to illustrate a comic situation or some kind of situation. You guys can draw it, a Machiavellian situation. There are a couple examples up that you can look at, but I want you guys to come up with a Machiavellian situation, somebody acting Machiavellian, doing something that's in their best self-interest and not in others' interest, ignoring doing the right thing to do what's best for them. So, for example, you'll see one of them, they have SpongeBob SquarePants and Squidward running away from zombies, and Squidward trips SpongeBob and then runs away and lets the zombies eat SpongeBob. That's Machiavellian because they ignored doing the right thing. It did what's best for you. So you guys will have today and tomorrow. I'm going to be grading you guys on the idea. Is it Machiavellian? Did you explain it on the back? I expect you guys to explain why it's Machiavellian on the back. I'm going to be grading it on neatness, and I'm going to be grading it on creativity. So those 3 factors will be put together. You don't have to be the best artist. You'll see up there there's some pretty good scored ones with not the greatest art. That's okay. I'm interested in the idea and the time that you put in making it neat. Good luck. Like I said, you're working on this for the rest of the day. Mr. Wilbur can help you out as much as you guys need. And you're working on this tomorrow as well when I'm back in class. Thank you guys for listening.